Iowa did receive a commitment this week from a JUCO transfer, Ontario Thompson, defensive line transfer, announced at midnight on Saturday. So I can admit that I did not quickly get on the computer and produce a video. So I'll be releasing something here probably later today, potentially tomorrow. See where we get this evening. But good grab for Iowa. Reportedly runs a 4.6 at 295. So that's impressive if that's the case. Now he's saying he's the one reporting, hey, I run a 4.6. So I'm sure that if he was at the combine, he wouldn't run a 4.6. But he does have a good motor. He was watching him on tape. Another example of Phil, despite some of the struggles right now on offense, and I produced a video earlier this morning, way early this morning, on Iowa's struggles recruiting linemen. Well, not even just linemen, just offensive players in general. Because they've actually done pretty well along that offensive line, even though they've had attrition. They're not struggling recruiting defensive backs, defensive linemen, linebackers. They're stacked, and they're going to lose some guys. We'll see who returns. I know the season's not over yet, but it'll be interesting to see the decisions from guys like Noah Shannon, Joe Evans, Logan Lee. Those guys are eligible for another year. So what will they do? It'll be interesting to see. But my point is, Phil is going to keep this defensive line deep, keep his roster stacked, and I have no reason to think this team, with guys like Thompson, who will probably be semi-plug-and-play-esque, I have no reason to think that they won't be really good across the board again next year, regardless of what the offense does.
Erica, we thank you so much for the super chat that I, unfortunately, with the click of a mouse, wiped off the screen. But thank you, Erica, for that. Yes, Iowa, you could be Northwestern. Yes, there are definite issues there that we can address during the offseason when we have plenty of time to talk other teams in the Big Ten Western Division. Just one more point that I'd like to make about Charlie Jones, because I know that I bring this up, and I'm sure I've driven Corey crazy on occasion by sending him a DM from time to time just to let him know what Charlie Jones is doing that particular Saturday. But this guy is going to be the answer to a trivia question. What player has moved from one team in a division to another whose career has exploded, and the team that he left remained this inept on offense? It's just
that question is never going to be formulated on Trivial Pursuit.
I'll have to figure out a better way to word it, but it's a little wordy.
Yeah. No, you're right. It's a unique situation. And speaking of Iowa, and speaking of players jumping from team within a division, how about TJ Hawkinson today being dealt by the Lions to the Vikings? It's kind of an interesting situation. So the former first-round Iowa tight end will now be playing up in Minneapolis, so that will be intriguing. But and Charlie, Purdue struggled Saturday. O'Connell threw three picks. He still caught 10 balls for like $105. So I have a hard time seeing him being shut down by the Iowa defense on Saturday. And maybe they do. I mean, he has been shut down once or twice. What was the game that, can't remember who it was they played, that he basically did nothing, but it's been few and far between. He's been basically consistent throughout the entire year. He's near the tops in almost every category. I went through this with Don Patterson Saturday during the post-game show. We're talking yards per game, receptions per game, receiving touchdowns. He's the only receiver. I mean, Xavier Hutchinson is pretty high on that list as well. And they're a kid from Tennessee. But I mean, for the most part, Charlie Jones appears to be, as far as stat stuffers, he is the guy. And it does beg the question as we get closer to the end of the year and NFL mock drafts become more prevalent. Where is he at? I know you don't claim to be a draft expert. Certainly I don't either. But is there any way he doesn't get drafted? I mean, I just don't see with this type of production with his speed that he wouldn't be drafted.
He gets drafted. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he would not have been drafted as a specialist at Iowa. So, he made the right decision, and this is exactly why he went to Purdue. And look, Iowa will be motivated, but so will Charlie Jones and so will Tyrone Tracy, because they want to beat if they were going back to Iowa City, they'd really want to perform. But I think there's no question, even in Ross-Ade, they want to beat their former team. And Tracy, remember, You could argue that Tracy just lost playing time. Now, he dropped a lot of passes, did not play well with his opportunities last year, and that's on him. But he also lost snaps. So he's been kind of the unspoken. I mean, nobody's really talking about Tyrone Tracy. Maybe the attention is, they hone in on Charlie Jones, and maybe Brom dials some stuff up for Tracy that we don't think is possible. That's conceivable as well.
The only wide receivers that get drafted to the NFL that catch 20 or 25 passes a season are physical specimens that NFL draft personnel managers in the NFL can project to want to mold and tap out the potential, but they're looking for production. And Charlie Jones has done just that. One other guy that's going to be fun to watch on the Purdue offense against this Iowa defense, because Iowa is certainly not afraid of contact or facing stout running games. But this Devin Mockabee, this guy runs about as violently as anyone you're going to see in college football. He may not be the most talented back that Purdue or Iowa's going to face this season, but yeah, he is a violent runner who looks for contact.
Good point. And although Iowa's relatively healthy up front, they're still down Justin Jacobs at their Leo linebacker spot. So, no, you're right. Mockabee runs a little bit like Xander Horvath, how he ran the football. I mean, just both physical guys. And let's not forget, now Iowa was down in 2020. This is what was ironic about that game. Seth Benson had COVID. Jack Campbell was out. I don't know if he had COVID or he was injured. But they were down their two-star linebackers. We didn't know they were going to be stars at the time. But certainly they were depleted at linebacker in that game. Barrington Wade was left on an island way too many times against David Bell. But my point being, Xander Horvath had a big game in 2020. So if Purdue can get the run game going, and Iowa can't run the ball, you combine that with what Purdue can do through the air and what Iowa struggles to do through the air. I still believe this is a mismatch. Maybe I'm just wallowing in my own misery here, but I just think that Iowa does not match up well with Purdue. And you can say, well, you're just stating the obvious based on the last several years. Well, sure. But I mean, none of those things have changed. If anything, the offense has gotten worse in pass pro, with the exception being last week. Worse as far as consistently opening up holes Tyler Goodson had over 1,000 yards last year despite their issues up front. So the matchup just to me does not set well.
There are definite comparisons to be made between Mockabee and Horvath. And Horvath, I caught him just a week or two. He's with somebody in the NFL. I saw him.
He is.
And I forget who it was. But I saw him on the field. He's playing for somebody, a key role in an offense.
Isn't that crazy?
Actually, I don't want to. Who is it?
I'm just going to say real quick. Isn't that crazy, though? Like Horvath was a guy that I'd never really heard of. He's kind of just was he a converted fullback, or was he always a running back?
He looks like a fullback, plays like a fullback.
Yeah. But the fact that Iowa can't seem to get a running back to stick in the league, and Purdue that doesn't run the football, like last year they really didn't run the football at all. Xander Horvath's playing in the league.
And playing. Yeah.
Incredible. It really is.
But I'll say this about Mockabee. Horvath is one of those guys that is just big and strong and just leans on defenders and just kind of pushes and leans. This Mockabee guy is like violent. Like he explodes into tacklers.
Yeah. So there's no question about it. Iowa's a defensive line and its linebacking core going to be sore after this game. And remember, Purdue go back to the bye week. Purdue had an extra week to heal up. Even the guys that maybe don't end up on the injury report that are beat up midway through a season, those guys had that extra week, and Mockabee included. So yeah, no, Mockabee's one guy I've watched a little bit. Watched him against Nebraska extensively, and I've tried to watch Purdue at every opportunity I could this year. But Iowa's going to have an issue if they can't stop the run.
Mockabee's averaging a full yard better than Xander Horvath over the course of his career, 5.4 to 4.4.
I believe he's a walk-on. Is he a walk-on right now?
Yes, he is.
There you go. And
I believe always wanted to play at Purdue and was recruited and signed at Air Force. played there a little bit.
And which former, let's do a little trivia for you, Mark, before
Okay.
you get to Erica's super chat. Which former fullback also transferred to a Big Ten team from Air Force and became a workhorse in the Big Ten in the
Okay.
last
Well,
10 years?
I'm guessing he transferred to Iowa.
Oh.
No,
Yes. No, you're right. But who is it?
I don't know.
You ever heard of the term Weissman for Heisman?
Sure. I
It was
don't
Mark
know that I
Weissman.
knew that at the time that he transferred from. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
we're going back about 10 years.
We are. 2012 was, you're right, exactly. 2012 was his coming out party. Iowa was decimated at running back. They went 4-8, and he ended up being a decent. He was a great work. I shouldn't say decent. He was a really good workhorse for what they needed through 2013 and then into 14.